segment of What's Happening on Rusk College campus. I'm Kirchtrell Tolliver here with Dr. Alicia McLeod, interim chair of the Humanities Department and an English professor. Dr. McLeod, recently we just took a trip to Strawberry Plains. We had a great experience, by the way. I really learned a lot of information.
Thank you for going.
I want to know, what was the significance of the trip?
The trip was sponsored by Gracing the Table, which is a slavery discussion group that has been meeting in Holly Springs for over a year now. And our mission is healing of wounds of slavery through open and honest discussion. So one of the strategies for this healing is to address slavery and racism in many different ways. One of the things that we hadn't done yet as a group was to meet off-site. We usually meet once a month on Thursdays at 6 o'clock at the Smiling Phoenix Coffee Cafe. But we had never gone off-site, and so our first trip was to go to Strawberry Plains, which used to be, yes, a slave plantation. By 1860, one of the slave owners who had his farm there, Ebenezer Nelms Davis, had 113 enslaved persons there in the 1860s. There were at least two additional farms there also. The Finley family had their plantation there. So we wanted to actually be in that space, that historic space, as we engage the issue. And it was a real turning point for us in terms of people's experience of that moment in history through being there.
All right, because I want to know, like, how do you feel like us as students, did we gain anything out of the situation that we were in? Because, you know, it was mixed. It was whites and African Americans there as well, and I feel like both, like we really had a good plan. We went in there and everything seemed to come out, you know.
Right. Well, I think my co-organizer and I, David Person, a local attorney in town, took a leap of faith, really. And what that involved was trying to decide whether or not this present time, 2013, and the 21st century in general, is the time for us to begin coming to the table together across race and talking about this. And so you don't know how it's going to go, except we took, again, that leap of faith, and it's been going pretty well, we think. So I think that was evidence of it. People were emotional, but at the same time, people were civil.
Yes, because I know when we did have a discussion, sit-down discussion at the table, you could really feel the tension in the air. But I feel like we really did come to a solid conclusion at the end. That, yeah, it was like some people probably felt negatively about the experience, but I felt like we really needed that, because without that we wouldn't know where we were headed towards anyway.
Yeah. All of the feedback that we got was positive, which isn't to say that all of the experiences were positive. Right. But we've been pleased with the responses so far.
Yeah, because I know, Gerard Williams, he really gave us a lot of input.
He did. Gerard is a friend of one of our key student organizers, Naomi Ron, and he hadn't been to any of our other meetings, and she encouraged him to come. And I think, like other students who were there were, I think, 8 or more of Rusk students there. He wasn't sure what to expect. I don't think that Naomi could have said really too much that would have prepared him. But he was open, and I think he had a good experience.
Yeah, because I want to know, what do you feel about when you seen the slave housing? How did that really affect you?
Well, it takes your breath away, really. How did people even survive that? I mean, you saw it. Yes. We complain now about not being warm enough. There was no heating, except for maybe a fireplace, yeah. And no insulation, and all kinds of weather, and yet they endured. Yes. So it really makes you take stock, think about how good we have it today and how far we've traveled.
And so what about when we went to the burial site for slaves, I know that touched me in a way, cause it was, I forgot the guy's name who was there pouring the water on the grave, and I wanted to know, like, that really is significant to our culture, because we really do need to experience things from our past.
Right. That was Wayne Jones, husband of Rickety Jones. So she did the beginning of the ceremony, and then Wayne continued it, the libation ceremony. And if you'll recall, one of the things that Rickety explained, she's an Egyptologist, by the way, is that in some cultures, everything is living, and everything actually has either a spirit or a soul. And so they're really, death is more like a transition. Death is not final, and certainly as, Christians believe the same. So part of the purpose of the libation is to recognize that the ancestors remain connected to us. This is something, it seems to me, critical. Even if we are going to look at the discussion of slavery as being something that is alive, as opposed to dead. One of the reasons people don't want to talk about it, you'll hear people all of the time say things like, I live in the present, that's in the past and that's done. But it really isn't fully done.
Yeah, because we all need we really should have a course of slavery so we can all study and get into it, so we can understand, like, the things they had to go through, so we can understand why we here today and what is our purpose, so we can try to defeat the negativity that surrounds our community.
I agree. I think that I would love to see historically black colleges and universities take a lead on that. As the humanities become more and more questioned in terms of their relevance and importance, what you've just said, it seems to me the primary approach to, I would even say, economy is to sort of keep people in the mindset of, future thinking all of the time. And I understand that's one aspect, but if we would instead look at life as not necessarily linear, but in a more relational way, and you can't, it's difficult, it's sort of counterproductive to encourage students to think about the relationship between past and present when the courses that they need are not required anymore in many cases.
Yeah, because I believe that in this day and age, the only color that really matters is green, because that's how everything is presumed to be.
Exactly, and I can just see how that could be demoralizing. Yeah. It may make you feel great if you have a lot of that green, but if you don't, you may judge yourself based on how little of it you have. So there are other ways to value life.
Yes, because we all need to just focus on our goals and our dreams, so we can actually help our ancestry, so we can build a new ancestry. So
yeah, and I think one of the things, just like I was saying a minute ago when I said that they survived it, they endured. Of course, not everyone did, but lots did.
A lot about our
exactly. So every aspect of that period is not negative.
Yes, because that's the only thing that we could do is endure, like we still endure today. The way society is set up around our communities enclosed us to fail, and yet we somehow strive to be the best.
That's right. That's right. And my students have reminded me recently, in any situation, there are going to be people who prevail, who endure,
yes,
who survive.
So we got to just keep your eye on the ball, focus on your goals, and we survive.
That's right. That's right. So the ancestors provide such a good example of that.
Yes, because we are the future. We are the generation that's coming up. Our classes and people that's in college now, and we gotta help the youth, the ones that's after us, show them like it's a better way to keep going instead of just being stuck in the slave mentality per se. Because basically, I still see that the society that we come from, it's modern day slavery.
Well, I think the same strategies are used again and again. Things like divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So
that's all they do.
Lessons from the past.
Yeah, they separate us and give some of us like privileges and take privileges away from the rest and make them feel like they're better. So it's a circle.
Yeah. Lots of internalized self-hatred as well. So.
Because I know that's what I'm trying to strive for better.
Good, good. Well, I was so glad that you were able to come out.
Yeah, I learned a lot because the thing that I learned the most was about the housing. And you walk in there, you look at it, it's unbelievable. You'll think by reading on it and stuff that you can get an understanding, but it's always better to have a visual aspect as well.
It is. And so, two things that I'm interested in. One is how do you, what we call memorialize that space? How do you market so that you tell stories that haven't been told from some of the voices that haven't been heard? And then the second thing is, because your generation is so, at least this is the rumor, technologically savvy, how can you use the new media to get those kinds of stories told?
Because I believe that our generation, we really can get out there, put it on Instagram and Facebook and social networking sites.
Exactly.
They can show the world that what we saw.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. For a couple of years now, I've been trying to get students excited about doing a Twitter campaign, and it has yet to materialize, but I'm hopeful that either that format or some other will be used.
Yeah, well, this will be our time for today, Dr. Lisa. I appreciate you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I'm Kirchtrell Tolliver with what's happening on Rush College campus. That was Dr. Elise McLeod. And coming back from this break, we'll have Gerard Williams and Naomi Ronan will fill in the rest. Thank you.
Stronger, healthier babies. It's what the March of Dimes is all about. Learn more about healthy babies at marchofdimesbaby.org.
Does it scare you to know that bed bugs are real? Or that termites cause billions of dollars in property damage? Or that cockroaches and mice contribute to asthma? Well, what should really scare you is not knowing these things. Because when you don't know what you're dealing with, household pests are a lot scarier than they should be. Learn more at pestworld.org.
I'm Kirchtrell Tolliver here with the second segment of what's happening here on Rush College campus. Recently, I discussed strawberry plants with Dr. Alicia McLeod, and right now we have two students that went on the trip, Naomi Ron and Gerard Williams. So let's get into the discussion. So Naomi and Gerard, can you give a little information about yourselves?
Hi, my name is Naomi Ron. Once again, I am a junior and also an English major at Rust.
All right.
My name is Gerard Williams. I'm a social science education major from Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, so recently we took the trip to Strawberry Plains. I want to know, what did you two experience from? Like, did y'all have any, did it affect you any type of way? Just tell me your experience, Naomi.
Actually, I was very excited. I'll just give you a brief history about Strawberry Plains to me. My freshman year, I was under the mentorship of Dr. Alicia McLeod, and I was also in her Composition 2 class, in which she introduced me to researching the genealogy of slaves within Holly Springs community. And I actually was given Ebenezer Davis. So he was a prevalent slave owner at Strawberry Plains. And so me actually being able to walk on those grounds where I researched about this particular man and how he owned a particular piece of land there was actually very touching to actually walk on the history that I researched.
Yes, because I know when we were there, we seen the slave houses, and we went into, when you enter, you can just feel the living conditions, like how terrible they was. So Gerard, same question to you.
Well, when I first stepped foot on the plantation, I immediately began to feel a type of way, as people would say. I believe that, I think you recall when I asked you the question, man, what would it have been like to become a slave here? I'm just trying to capture all of it in. I looked, I mean, they had beautiful vegetation, flowers and everything else, but I remember them saying before all this was put up, it was nothing but fields of cotton. You can actually see from there to Holly Springs, which I found to be amazing. But yeah, I also thought about it. Like, I mean, our ancestors were here, slaving over this cotton, over this cash crop. And I started to think even more, and I came up to the conclusion that this is that was a most definite humbling experience. It really began to sink in once we all gathered at the table and we were discussing how we felt. I told you once before, I told you and the group of people that it's foundation. It's most definitely a foundation that all of us need to have cultivated within us. Our ancestors, everything that they have overcame, everything that they went through, everything that they learned, they passed on to us for us not to forget. So that we won't forget. Which goes back to the statement that I made there. You cannot tell me where you're going unless you tell me where you've been.
So us as a people, how do you think we, like our culture and the Caucasian community, how do you think we can bond amongst each other to get past that and yet help our community on our own to be better productive by learning our history?
Well, I think that we're doing that now with the program that Naomi Ron is the founder of, Gracing the Table, or GTT as they would say, and it actually causes descendants of slave owners and descendants of slaves to come together and actually talk about what went on in a comfortable setting, such as, what is it, the Smiling Phoenix, isn't it? Which is a coffee shop right up the street in the square. And I have yet to go as far as, GTT is concerned, but I have been told that it is a wonderful experience. It's a bond like no other, especially when it comes to somewhere as small as Holly Springs. It's small. Don't get me wrong, it's small, but it's very rich in culture, very rich in history. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to learn within this small city.
So Naomi, with the GTT program per se, what do you want to gain from it? What do you want others to gain from it?
Really, at this point, I want to create a change within the Holly Springs community and break those Southern customs and those conventions in which stops African Americans and Caucasians and even other ethnic groups within the community from communicating with one another. So really right now, Gracing the Table is our goal is to try to talk about these very hard, intense topics about slavery and even racism today, so that there can be bonding and, more importantly, healing that goes forth. So it's healing from the slave owner descendant side and from the slave descendant side. And so it's just healing and communication is the main goal. And once we continue that, once we start that, I believe it's already starting, but once it has fully taken off, that other communities as well will take our ideas and try to, especially in the South, try to really, really, really cultivate a place of warmth and communication within their community.
So where do you plan for the Gracing the Table to not take place, but to prosper at? Do you want to stay locally or nationally?
I think the ultimate goal is for us to really broaden our horizons, not just stay within the local community here in Holly Springs. Start out with other communities and then build our way up to our ultimate goal of reaching a national point. So That is the main goal, but also to get more student involvement. Even here at Rust, we actually have a couple students that come to these meetings as well, at the Smiling Phoenix, and we just had one at the Strawberryplains from Ole Miss. So we're looking for other students, other college students, to really come together and help us create this communication and healing.
So, Gerard, how do you feel like you as an African American man, how could you change the boundaries and the borderlines for our culture?
Honestly, I feel as if I can make a change by doing what I've always been doing. Reaching out to others, no matter what race you are, no matter what culture you come from. Because each culture, each ethnic background, they all have a voice. Everybody, as my father would say, iron sharpens iron. You never know what another person may have in store for you. And I'm not just talking job opportunities or a sense of networking or anything like that. They can have something for you that causes your spirit to change. That causes something within you to grow and manifest and become something godly. I've said it before in some of my classes. It hasn't been just African Americans to inspire me to do what I'm setting out to do here, which is to teach. I've had teachers of all walks of life. And that's what I plan to do. I plan to reach others by talking to them, letting them know where I come from and where my people come from.
So, Naomi, same question to you. As an African American woman, how do you think that you can help our people change?
Really, I believe in just me getting my education so that I can teach. A lot of times, we attend school to be trained instead of educated. And so I would like to get out in my community and really teach people how to be educated. I, for one, I'm attending a four-year college, and that was my form of education. Now, that might not be for everyone, but the understanding of education is key. It's about why and not about how. And I think if we get that understanding, and if I can teach that, I can teach the difference between the trained and being educated. I think that as a community, wherever community I teach at, it will go to a higher height in understanding, knowledge, and most definitely in education.
Yes, because I believe our generation, like, it's our time to show what we can do. Like, during the 80s and the 90s, we had the really big drug impact that really stopped our generation from striving. So we need to be the ones that can then lay the new framework and continue to dream of Martin Luther King, because basically we are in modern day slavery. That's how I feel. Mm-hmm. And we just need to get out of that state of mind to help our people and our community. So how do y'all feel about this?
Well, I honestly feel as if and it's so ironic, it's so funny, because we were just talking about this in class earlier today, in Dr. Williams' class for advanced writing. And we were talking about all these oppressors, all these people that are trying to keep us down, and all these people that dislike African Americans. But if you look at it, we make it seem as if we dislike ourselves.
Exactly.
We need to stop putting each other down. We need to stop ridiculing each other. We need to start uplifting each other as young men and as young women through a method of scholarship. And once we obtain that scholarship, continue to persevere to uplift those. You never stop. You never stop. We love to poke and prod at everyone else. But when it comes down to us, that's when we make it seem as if we're the victims. But we do it ourselves. So my question to everyone is, who are the oppressors? Who are truly the oppressors?
Yeah. You had anything to
I was
say?
just going to say, you were discussing about modern slavery. It just goes back to that ideal of when you go to these educational institutions, especially us as African Americans, you're going there to obtain knowledge so that you can apply that knowledge to your life, so that you can live a better life. And just tying that into the idea of modern slavery, sometimes we attend these educational institutions to be trained so that we can get a job and not have a different lifestyle. And I think that's very important for our generation to understand, that it's always about why and not about how. It's always about being educated. It's not just about being trained. And once we get an understanding of that, then we can be a part of this, be a part of a better social change. I'm specifically talking about my generation, the millennial generation now. Be a part of a social change where we can break those barriers and actually be more effective within our communities and especially within the mainstream society.
All right, well, that's all our time we have
Thank
here
you.
today, and I appreciate you all coming out here.
Most definitely. It was a pleasure.
All right, and I'm Kirchtrell Tolliver. That was Gerard Williams and Naomi Ron with What's Happening here on Rusk College campus.